Hi, this is Lee Furseth from the Headwaters Science Center in Bemidji, and you've got it. We have a special guest on our show today. This is Savannah, and Savannah's here because we're going to do some exploring of the instrument she brought along. So for those of you that follow our shows, like you're doing it every day at 3:30, or maybe you're doing it whatever, because we archive them on all of our networks, our different networks, maybe you've noticed that for about 3 weeks now we've been following this, let's just call it a topic, music. And Savannah brought along her musical instrument. But before she plays for us and explains any of this stuff, let's find out a little bit more about Savannah. So, Savannah, tell us something about yourself, like where you go to school, maybe what grade you're in.
Yeah, my name is Savannah Haugen, and I'm 17 years old. I'll be a senior at Bemidji High School next year. And I'm in the band there. I'm in the concert band, the jazz band, and the show choir band. I've been in band for a really long time, since middle school, and I really, really enjoy it.
Wow, so a really long time. Like, what grade did you start?
Sixth grade. So
Sixth
it's been almost 6 years now.
Wow. All right, so if somebody was out there listening and they're going, wow, I'm kind of interested in being in a band or learning an instrument, what's so wonderful about the saxophone?
I really like the saxophone because, especially when you start out when you're young in like middle school, it's easy to learn. It's easy to start getting sounds out, and the fingerings aren't too difficult, so it's easy to pick up quickly. But then as you get more advanced, there's so many different things you can do with it, especially like in jazz. There's lots of different intonations and sounds and effects you can add to your saxophone. There's improvisation, just so many other things.
There goes that Savannah using big words that maybe all of us don't even already know. So yeah, we should go exploring a little more about what she's talking about. So we're going to look at the saxophone now that we know a little bit about you. And I'm just going to tell you, I know nothing about the saxophone. I was a brass instrument player. I played the trumpet when I was in high school, and you know, if I picked up a trumpet, I could maybe blast out a tune now, but I don't know anything about the saxophone. Yeah. So let's start with the mouthpiece. Is it called the mouthpiece?
Yes, this is the mouthpiece. And I'll take it all the way apart, because there's 3 parts on the mouthpiece. So the mouthpiece is made up of the main part, which is the technical mouthpiece, the reed, which is a piece of wood, and the ligature, which holds the reed onto the mouthpiece.
Wow, there's a word I didn't know. Ligature is going to hold that piece of wood onto the mouthpiece. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So this is the reed, and it's a piece of wood that goes on the mouthpiece, and it's important because it's what makes the saxophone a woodwind, and it's what makes the sound on a saxophone, because the reed is what vibrates and makes those sound waves.
All right, let's try it. Only let's not try the saxophone. Let's just try the mouthpiece.
All right.
You can play us something on the mouthpiece? All right, here it comes.
Not necessarily a tune, but you can hear the different pitches that you can make.
All right.
So it's kind of a funny sound.
Yeah, Savannah, what do you call that song?
That's called a siren, which is what you do when it makes that super funny kind of like high sound and it goes up and down a little bit.
You're pulling my leg down. There's actually a name for that sound.
Yeah, it's called a siren.
Wow, I didn't know. I was just being foolish. All right, so if you were going to play just the mouthpiece, how many notes could you play playing just the mouthpiece? How many different notes could you play?
It really depends on the person and how good you are at controlling your mouth and your face, because that's what controls how high or low the sound goes when you're playing just on the mouthpiece.
All right. So I think you heard her just give you the definition of a fantastic word. Just go look it up in the dictionary. It's a fantastic word. It's called embouchure. The embouchure is what she described. Mouth, lips, how much your mouth was open, how much you were squeezing with your lips. It's all about embouchure. And so let's hear 2 notes. How's that?
2 notes? All right.
All right. Same mouthpiece, 2 different notes. All right, we won't press you for any more than that.
Okay.
All right, let me explain this exhibit that's behind us. I've been bringing out this exhibit for 3 or 4 of our shows, and what she just did with the mouthpiece alone was played 2 different notes. Why this exhibit is fun is because, well, we'll show you. So just listen for a little bit. There's about 15 different notes, and in this particular case, the notes were different pitches because of the sizes of the leaves. When she played 2 different notes and nothing changed except how she was playing it with her mouth. Now we're going to go to the saxophone, right?
Yeah.
So now she's putting the mouthpiece back on because now we have a saxophone. And while you're doing that, what's the name of the saxophone? Because every saxophone has a different name.
This
right?
is an alto saxophone.
This is an alto saxophone. So when you're sitting in band and you're in the alto saxophone section, how many more saxophones are there in a band?
It depends on what kind of band you're in. In our concert band, we have 4 alto saxophones, and in our jazz band, we have 2. And in a show choir band, you have 1 alto saxophone.
All right. Name those other saxophones. So there's an alto saxophone.
Yeah, in most ensembles, you'll find an alto, a tenor, and a baritone. But there's also a soprano saxophone, which is used some, but just less.
All right. Explain the differences.
Yeah.
We are going to get to playing notes. Don't worry if you're sitting back there going, well, when are you going to get to the fun stuff? That would be when she's going to play some notes. But for the time being, let's talk about the 4 saxophones she named. Here's the alto. All right, so what's the difference between the other ones you named?
The main difference is the size of the instrument and the range of the notes that it can play.
All right, so which one's smaller?
The smallest one is the soprano, and then the next biggest one is the alto, then the tenor, and then the baritone is the biggest and the lowest.
All right, very good. That's a little bit like our leaves here. So this leaf right down here on the bottom, this leaf plays the lowest notes. She told us that the baritone saxophone plays low notes. Is there even one bigger than that one? Is there a bass saxophone that kind of has this weird curlicue at the top?
That's what a baritone saxophone has. This is the neck right here, this piece that comes off, and on an alto saxophone it's straight, but on a baritone it actually makes an entire loop. It goes like this.
And then finally goes down and back up.
So when you were blowing in the mouthpiece, you said you were making the different notes by blowing differently. Is that just blowing harder? Is that blowing...
Yeah, it has to do with the shape of your embouchure, and when you use your embouchure to go higher, you usually have to tighten up and bring your lips back. And so when you do that, you need more air to get it to vibrate higher because it's tighter. So it just needs a higher volume of air.
Right. Some of that's true of trumpet players too. That yes, it has to do with your lips and the muscles that you're using, but sometimes it even has to do with how hard you're going to blow. But you can play really quiet, high notes. Just takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right, so now we're going to go to the actual shape of the whole instrument. And without changing your embouchure, could you play a really high note and then maybe play a really low note?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, do a little explaining about what you were doing, because there's all kinds of stuff going on here. And that higher note, why was it higher?
The first note was higher, one, because you only have 3 fingers down, you only have 3 of these keys down, and then with the second note, you have 6 of these keys down. But it also has to do with your embouchure, too.
All right, let's stick with the number of keys.
Yeah.
Are they called keys? All right, so when you only have 3 of them down, you were able to play a high note. What did it actually do to the saxophone because you had 3 keys down?
Yeah, so when you have 3 keys down, they cover up, when you press a key down, it covers up one of these holes on the saxophone, and so the more holes that are covered, the lower the sound. Because
the longer the instrument.
Yeah,
is that right?
The less places for the air to escape, essentially. Yeah.
All right. Is the sound coming out here though? It's still going to come out.
I mean,
there.
it comes out a little bit from these holes, but the significant majority comes out of the bell.
Okay, so you played us a high note. Is there a note that was higher than the one that was covered with 3?
Yeah, there is actually.
Okay, so here we go.
And then that's the end of the normal range for a saxophone. There is a super high range called altissimo, but that requires like a special key on your saxophone.
Wow, altissimo. She was speaking a little French there, actually. I mean, a little Spanish there, meaning really high. That was a really high note. So there are some notes that go above that one, and you're going to get those into your repertoire one of these days. And the very lowest notes would mean that you're going to cover everything you can to make it as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hear that one.
And that's about as low as you can go using just the normal keys. You can actually play a note lower if you cover the bell with your leg like this, and you have to do that sometimes in pieces, but it's really difficult.
Wow. Who knew?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. How about a little bit of a serenade? How about a little tune? Could you just do a little tune for us?
Sure.
Wait. Guess this tune. All right, here we go. You're going to play us something. We're going to try to guess what it is.
We'll recognize.
I don't have any songs memorized on the saxophone.
All right, so you're just going to play us a little bit.
Sure.
A couple of notes.
Sure.
Wow, I think I can name that tune. No, actually, I can't. I have no idea
It's
what
not
you're
a
playing, but it
song.
was very pretty. All right. So, if you were going to give somebody that's listening advice about when is a good time to start and maybe how to get started, what kind of advice would you give somebody that's listening?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's always best to start as early as you can, but it's never too late. So I started when I was a kid, when I was in middle school. That's when a lot of people start. And that's usually a good age because you're like old enough that you can handle this, because it's kind of a big and heavy instrument sometimes. The saxophone it's a little bit heavy, so you want to make sure that you can handle it. But yeah, I would say just find yourself a good teacher, a rental saxophone, and it's really easy to get started.
Okay. Is that what this one is? You rented one, or did
Nope,
you go out
I
and buy
bought
a
this.
saxophone?
Yeah.
Because this was my next question, even before she mentioned this renting a saxophone idea. So where do you think you're going with this? Are you gonna, high school's coming to an end, oh, I'm still gonna play saxophone, or where do you think you're headed with your saxophone playing?
Yeah, we'll see. I think I'd like to play for fun in college, because I do really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, Savannah's a very, very busy person. Just before we started this show, she was talking about the tennis that she's playing, and so she's got a lot of diverse interests and all that kind of stuff, but saxophone is one of them. So that's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks,
Very fun.
Lee.
Oh yeah, sorry. Now we'll tell you about these shows. Thanks for that reminder. We do these shows every single day at 3:30, and we want you to know that they're live shows. You could come in and be in the audience if you wanted to do that. And it's great to have a guest. That's really fun to have somebody come in from outside of the Science Center. So we do these every single day. Our hours, Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 5, and Sundays, 1 to 5. Those are all our hours. And we do thank Beltrami County Electric Cooperative, because they underwrote this particular show along with lots and lots of other ones, which that reminded me one more thing we can ask Savannah. So we won't sign off yet. So you don't only play saxophone and tennis, but you actually volunteer here at the Science Center as well. Yeah. How long have you done that?
I've been a volunteer here for 7 months, I think. 7 or 8,
Wow.
something like that.
Thanks for doing that. And if you want to know more about volunteering, you could give us a call. It's Ryan you're going to want to talk to, because Ryan could tell you about volunteering. Okay.